Bansal. I come from a small village in UP. My father moved us to the city for better education. English medium school, good grades, debate competitions. I was the golden child on stage. But that happened after one incident, and let me tell you about that. In class 6, I was the student who lived like tomorrow doesn't exist, hanging out with guy friends, not caring about grades, and I failed my midterm and got an F for the very first time. My English teacher stopped me after the class and a 30-minute scolding. And she says, and I quote, ऐसी लड़कियों की शादी नहीं होती है. Seriously. शादी मेरे लिए बहुत important थी उस वक्त, by the way. And some words like, don't destroy your family's reputation. Be a good kid and do something better for society. But a lot of harsh words, right? Post that, I changed. Stopped hanging out with the friends I was hanging out before. And on the same class where I got an F grade, I came second in the class. In the same year. Life had the same turn then. A 10 CGPA in class 10th and a 95 percentile in class 12th, and then I got into Delhi University. Do you remember that dialogue from Three Idiots by Virus, where he says, life is a race, compete or die. तुम अगर रेस में सबसे आगे नहीं भागोगे तो कोई तुम्हें कुचल के आगे चला जाएगा. I took it on my head, and it was already there for a lot of years. Now, once I and my dad were just roaming on the road, and he just points a finger at a car and says, तुम अपनी BMW में मत बिठाना कभी हमें. I was a class 10th kid, and you're talking about crores, right? Weird, right? Didn't make sense, but it stuck. So I played my game. I had good marks, I came to XCC. Then I prepared for CAT, and I got into IIM Sambalpur. And it all started, IIM started, because I read a book called One Indian Girl by Chetan Bhagat, and I was fascinated by Radhika Mehta, which portrayed that IIM is equals to dream life. I started preparing, but a business opportunity came my way. Night shifts, foreign clients, profitable. For the very first time, I earned my own money. And apart from money, you know what the best thing it gave me? The audacity. The audacity to be on my own for the rest of my life ahead. Well, I almost completed my graduation back then, and Indian parents. So my parents are highly learned individuals, and they wanted the same for me. They wanted me to do post-graduation. So just to settle them, I got my admission into Department of Chemistry, Delhi University, which was a dedicated, meritorious process, by the way. Then a few months later, I felt the most alive in my life. And at the same time, the most dreadful doing my chemistry assignments. Alive because of my work. So I did what felt right. I dropped out. Didn't told my parents yet, but when I told them, there was weeks of silence. Silence louder than any lecture. One fine day, my dad calls me and says, in his serious voice, post graduation ka kya karna hai? I didn't reply, but because I had no reply, but you can never pass your Indian parents' tactics, right? So at this point of time, I remember this quote from Robert Frost where he says, "Two roads diverged in a wood, and I took the one less traveled by." But I think what he forgot to mention was that sometimes the road less traveled by takes you back to the beginning, and that's okay. So I started preparing for CAT again and got into IIM Sambalpur. But one thing that I've always felt by the time then, that I was never number one. Never in my life. Remember, I got second in that class 6. And that stuck with me. Even at that time, I realized I am Ahmedabad ko nahi mila tha. And this is a story of a lot of students, honestly. The hunger was real. The hunger is still there. So from there, I found my peace in content creation. 5 years into that, to tell you about it, English teaching failed. Business content, I put my money into it, which I didn't had, failed. YouTube failed. Daily vlogging, barely any traction. 5 years of mockery and listening. इसको लगता है ये creator है, पर ये है नहीं. That was my hostel neighbor, by the way. On my face, I smiled and walked away, but I kept working. August 2024, I hit my first 10K followers on Instagram. 2 months later, my first 100K. And right now, I have an audience of 4 lakh followers across platforms. I got rejected from XLRI while I gave the interview for MBA. And I was invited as a panelist in the MBA Creator Summit just the first month of this year. I did not have money to pay for the editing software back then, and now I've worked with the biggest brands of India and globally in the education sector, including IITs and IIMs, by the way. I was at IIT Roorkee 2 days back. Today I'm here, and you know what the irony is? I have a leave application that I had to be signed from my college. The application says, written by a student committee member, the event I would miss, TEDx into my college. The same event I wanted to volunteer last year. Just maybe some backstage work so that I could interact with the guests. And today I'm here as a guest in front of you all. If you ask me the one thing that guided me, it was purely delusion. And now people relate delusion with a woo-woo nonsense, but I tell you what delusion exactly is. Delusion is believing in the future version of yourself that doesn't exist yet. Mind you, my friends, yet. Delusion is believing so hard in your future self that your brain finds ways for that to fulfill. There is a celebrated American poet, Mary Oliver, and she asks, "What do you plan to do with your one wild and precious life that you have?" I replied, "I want to bet on myself. I want to bet on myself and see where it goes." Now, all of you, can you take your right hand up and put it on your chest here? Sorry for the drama, by the way, but it's required. Trust the process, guys. Okay. Feel your heartbeat. that, my dear friends, is the most powerful tool you have right now. Not your college, not your degree, not your job, not your LinkedIn profile and the fancy keywords you use, but you and the infinite potential you hold right now. So, you see this graph, right? This is how I define success. There is a long consolidation period, and the results are way too less. I want you to be conscious of the fact that your success could exactly look like this: a long consolidation period. And you would not see results, and a majority of the people quit by the time. And reason is fair, because you can't see results, and your obvious answer is let's drop out. But that is how a success graph would look like for every successful individual. There are a lot of work and barely any result. But it is important that you survive that time with trust and delusion. Because, my dear friends, when you are not getting results, there is work done in the backstage that you're not aware about. I have been creating content from past 5 years. But people call me a 4 month success, 4 lakh followers in 4 months. Oh my God. No, brother. That is how it looks like. Okay. So it's important that you're conscious about that. Now, I came from a small village called Tadholi Kadim in UP. And my so we were a family of 4 and 5, and we lived on a meager salary, just one person earning that time. I was not allowed to go out of home after 6 p.m. And I remember one day there was a science day at SBC, and I wear a really short dress. Not really, maybe here, by the way. And then my uncle called my father, and I felt like I committed the horrendous crime of my life. So no money, no power, no freedom. The only thing which worked for me was delusion, believing in myself, and working each day with discipline and consistency. What I want to say to you right now is that I challenge you to be delusional. Be unapologetically, audaciously confident in the capabilities you hold. No arrogance, no recklessness, no irrationality, no somebody who doesn't map the risk reward ratio, but somebody who can envision and work with hard work and consistency. My dear friends, can you do that? And if you can't, don't have big dreams. That's basic. Otherwise, you lose your happiness, right? On the last lap of my speech today, I would just want to ask you all one question. What would you do had you known that you would not lose at the job you want to do and something that you wanted to do for the rest of your life? Please go and give it a try today. That's all. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. That was Urvi Bansal signing off.